This video is made up of the best parts of a 6-hour live stream I did a couple weeks ago. In it, you're going to see the different mics I used and how I set them up. We're going to compare different kick and snare drum mics. We're going to talk a little bit about drum tuning, drum dampening. I'm going to show you the gear I used. And at the end, you're going to see us record the drums on one of my new tracks. Now, I've never attempted this complex of a live stream before, and I didn't plan on streaming for 6 hours either, but I ended up going down a rabbit hole. I got excited about things, and I had everybody scrambling to keep up with me, so some of the camera shots don't look as good as they should, but I felt like we ended up with a lot of good content and information, which is why I edited down the 6 hours to a little more than an hour for you. If you want to skip ahead to the section you're interested in, there's an index below in the description. I hope you enjoy. Hey everybody, welcome to the Wednesday afternoon live stream. Harper's going to be down here running the audio. We've got Wizolfo over on the cameras. We've also got Sky Magnet here, Justin Mullenix from the Risky Biscuit Band. He's going to be helping out down here as well. Kit is moderating and handling comments.
Hey everybody.
So I've got Dave Anthony on drums. We've got Jimmy B. He's going to be helping out with the cameras. We've got Tap on the Blackmagic camera. What we're doing today, this is not like an all like, oh, here's the one way to mic drums. This is how I'm micing drums today on this song that we're working on. I think I got 15 mics, which to some of you might seem like a lot, but for me, if I'm in a studio and I've got the pre's and all that, and I want a lot of options, it's not unusual for me to have like 24 mics on the drums. Most of them won't get used, but I'd rather be in a situation later on where it's like, I would rather turn off things that I have than later on wish I had something I didn't have. That's the way I look at it. This is my living room, and let's point up at this wall over here. This is my reflection wall here. I'm eventually going to be putting some diffusers up here, but I like to reflect off that wall. This is all a work in progress. But this is basically where we're recording. We're upstairs from the control room you guys are used to normally seeing me. I've got 2 microphones inside the kick drum. Now, I know a lot of people talk about the sub-kick mic. I'm sure some of y'all have seen that. It looks like a drum that sits out front, which derived from, it used to be this thing where you'd hang a speaker. It's basically a dynamic mic, and I've got one downstairs. I don't use those anymore because I've got a technique I use in mixing, which I think is way better. So here's what I've got going on. I've got an AKG D112, otherwise known as an egg mic. The other mic I've got in here, and I want to buy one of these. This was brought today by Justin Mullenix, Sky Magnet. This is a Shure Beta 91A. This is basically, I believe, a PZM mic. But the way this works is you just put it in the kick drum. So we're going to compare that to...
You want to make sure you have some kind of muffling in the kick drum before you just lay that mic
Oh, yeah,
on the
yeah,
shelf.
yeah. You don't want to just put it on... Exactly.
But you can kind of just throw it in anywhere, too. It's kind of crazy like that. But they like make like a suspension mount for it.
I think it's called the Kelly shoe mount.
Yeah,
that
it
is
floats it in the air. Okay, so I've got the egg mic in there. It's basically, it's kind of centered in the kick drum. It's about 3 inches from here, and it's pointed right towards where the beater hits. And you could get, I mean, you could move this thing around, and actually I'm gonna do that. So let's go to kick 1, no EQ on the API. What I'm gonna do is while he's hitting it, I'll move the mic a little bit, and you can just tell me where you think it sounds good. So here we go.
Gotcha.
Further in or further back in my direction?
I thought for the case of your song, I think probably further in.
Okay, so let me put it a little further in. And I used to do that. I used to like put it in literally in the middle of the kick drum, pointed at the mallet. Okay, so that's that. Now, let's listen to the kick 2, which is the Shure Beta 91.
And this is the Shure.
You can hear the difference there.
Yeah.
So now let's A-B back and forth.
This is the AKG. And this is the Shure. This is the AKG. And back to the Shure.
What I thought was interesting, I mean, I can't tell sitting up here in front of this kick drum, but when we were downstairs testing it, it seemed like the pitch of the kick drum sounded different between the AKG and the Shure mic.
That's interesting.
It's
Is that something
crazy.
to do with the low end?
I don't know, it was weird. It was almost like it was a different kick drum. To me, it sounded really different. I couldn't decide which one. I like certain things about both of them, but let's go back to the AKG mic. Okay, so you guys can see there on the bottom left, these are the mic pre's I'm using on the kick and snare. I'm using API 512C mic pre's. I'm not using the 4-band EQ on the snare drum. It's just going through that, but I'm going to be using the EQ on the AKG mic. Now, right now, the EQ is not on that AKG mic. I always feel like I gotta EQ the AKG mic because it just sounds kind of like boxy to me. It's pretty damn close to how I would normally have it during a session. So let's try that. This is A being the API EQ graphic EQ on the AKG egg mic. That's normally what I would do basically for that mic. So you can hear the difference there. Now what I want to do is A-B between the AKG with the EQ in against the Shure Beta 91. How'd that sound?
I don't really know how to explain it. It's just, I think the AKG still is my favorite.
Justin, what do you think?
I obviously like the Shure better. The thing with the AKG for me, and I have one, I feel like it sounds cool by itself, but it has what I call like the basketball sound.
Yep.
And there's a honkiness to that,
Yeah.
that once you try to put it in the mix, it's either like a really high, like snap sound, or you get a lot of the resonance, the lows from it. But the Shure has all that mid-range that I want out of like a snappy kick drum. It's a little
That's
bit,
a different kind of mid-range though than that AKG.
oh, completely different.
The
for
way
sure.
I would describe it is, to me, the AKG sounds like, you know, a very proper sound, like somebody who came over and they're like, oh, let me give you the proper sound. And the Shure sounds like somebody maybe had a couple shots and walked in the room and just doesn't give a damn. He's like, ah! And you're like, whoa!
Yeah, it's got a
Which
it's
is-
got a crunchiness to it.
Yeah, it's got an attitude. I'm gonna leave the Shure in there. I wanna try this other mic I've never tried before. So what I'm switching to now, folks, this has never been done before. Billy Hume has never tried this mic before.
It's the SEV kick. It's got different EQ curves on it. I would start at classic, Billy. There's 2 switches, and
Okay.
it gives you like a high pass, a
Let's see.
moderate.
I don't know if you can get a focus on that. I'm gonna put them both on classic.
Yes, that's a flat, basically.
Okay, so let's do this one, and I'm gonna have them hit it, and I'm just gonna move it in and out, and y'all gonna tell me where it sounds the best. What do y'all think?
I think I like what Dave was saying, have it almost like just barely in there.
Okay, so now it'll make it easier to switch the little switchy things on it. Actually, when I was doing the hooplas in Asheville at Echo Mountain, I rarely put a mic like this, but on his kick drum, I ended up doing something like this. If you put your hand, hit the kick drum, and move your hand back and forth, you know, you can feel different ways that the air hits your hand, and a lot of times I make a decision based on that. So what I'm gonna do is, while he's playing, I guess that's all right to flip the switch while you're playing, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so he's gonna hit it, and I'm gonna first off switch the,
The one side's like gives you a more of a point, like
okay,
a tag,
yeah.
high
So
end.
this is gonna be like a upper mid-range boost. So we're gonna start on flat, and then we're gonna go to boost, all right? When I go like this is flat. When I go like this, that's boost, okay? You ready?
Okay. Here we go.
What do y'all like better?
I think I like the boosted better.
Okay, we'll leave it there. And now we're gonna go between flat and scoop. So we'll have flat and then we'll have scooped, okay? So we're starting flat and then we'll go to scoop. Here we go.
What's the verdict?
I like the first one, the flat.
Okay.
Personally.
The flat gives it a little more body, right?
I wouldn't ask, I wasn't worried about the sound. I was wondering, do you like it when I go like this, or do you like when
yeah.
I go like this better? Okay, let me put it back on flat. Okay.
Second one for that, but the first
Yeah.
one for the sound.
Wait, you're saying, so the first one is flat.
No,
Oh, you're saying with my hand movements.
yes.
Yeah, but do the hand move. The second hand movement is the one you.
Yeah,
want.
Oh, I say, okay.
The scoop hand
See,
movement
he's
is the winner.
right there with me, God. Okay, now let's choose between the Shure and the SE mic.
So on the SE mic, you have a little boost in the upper mid range,
But
and you have it flat
flat
in the
on the
lower
s-
on
yeah.
everything else.
This is the SE. And this is the Shure. This is the SE. And back to the Shure.
What do y'all think?
I don't know. That's hard.
It actually sounds cool. I like the sound of it.
Okay.
I with a lot of these things, it's always misleading just to listen to it by itself.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Because,
You
like,
get- you hear the
I'm probably gonna
context.
record them both since I've got them all mic'd up.
It's like, if you get a good bass tone and then you put it in the mix and you're like, that good bass tone sounds like crap in the mix.
Exactly.
It's too muddy.
Yeah, we'll record them both. Let's get down here with the snare real quick. I'm gonna walk around this way. Let's get down here, close tap. Okay, so you're gonna see there's two mics here. Now, first off, this is a very standard mic most people use. This is a Shure SM57. Everybody's got these, and I would encourage anybody getting into recording, buy yourself one or two of these. What are these, about $100 or something like that?
$100.
It's like a $100 mic, and you can use it on guitars, drums, vocals, anything. I use this on almost everything. We also have, okay, so this is another SM57. Yeah, Justin, that's an SM57.
I think it's called a tab, like Telefunken transformer in it. It's a little less harshness on the high end, a little bit more low end.
It's a different transformer inside the microphone, right?
Yeah, it's done by Zen Pro Audio. I forget who makes the mod to do the angle, but man, the angle is so sweet.
I've got them here together. We're gonna compare back and forth in a little bit on that. My standard miking technique here for snare is I basically have a mic. It's kind of like right over the rim here. I don't know how we all can see it, but it's basically the edge of the mic is literally right over the rim, and it's about 1.5 to 2 inches up, and this is pointing towards the middle of the head.
2 average fingers.
Yeah, okay, that's what I have. 2 average, are my fingers average? Underneath, I have a bottom mic. And now I'm using an AKG 414 condenser. This is a bit pricey. Sometimes people will just use another 57. I like to use some sort of condenser. A lot of people use a small diaphragm condenser because it's a little more bright. I just like the bigness of this thing. This thing is barely in the mix. Now, here's the key. When you've got an under snare mic, I try to make sure that oh yeah, actually, this would come back a little bit. It's basically like kind of mic'd the same way the top is, but on the bottom as far as the distance and all that and where it's pointing. But the other thing that's really, really important is this mic has to have the polarity reversed. Now, polarity is, you got a sound wave, and when you look at a sound wave, it's this curve that goes like this, right? So positive, negative, right? The mic on the bottom is going to have the polarity reversed of the sound, and here's why. Think about this. When the stick hits the head and it pushes the head down, this is a very simple explanation. Think about the head going away, the waveform is going away. It's going down from the mic, kind of. This is the simple way to explain it. But it's going away, the head's going away from this mic, where it's going towards, it's pushing towards that one, so the waveforms are reversed. What that ends up doing is canceling out some of the sound. There's a little button on your mic pre that is called polarity Sometimes it's called phase, which is technically not the right term, but it's also on a lot of plugins. So it looks like a 0 with a line through it. That is your polarity/phase button. So you always want to make sure that either your mic pre is reversed when it's the bottom mic, or if you can't do that, your mic pre doesn't allow you to do it. There's usually a plugin, either a utility plugin or some EQs will have that button on there. Make sure that's pressed. So that's on the bottom mic. And let's real quickly, I'm going to hit this a little bit. Let's do the bottom mic now by itself. This is just the bottom mic. It's funny because that bottom mic doesn't sound great, but it's just getting these springs. They just need to be blended in there. So let's put the top and the bottom together now. And you could get way, 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 way deeper with this stuff. I'm just kind of going over the basic rules here. The other thing I want you to notice is you'll see the way I have these mics pointed. Any way I can, I try to point these mics away from the hi-hat, because in most cases, hi-hat's going to be too loud in the snare mic. I actually have a little thing I built that I can connect to a stand. It's just basically cardboard stacked up with a bunch of duct tape that sometimes I'll put like right here. And they also make some things you can put on the mics with a little shield, because, you know, drummers have a way of hitting the hi-hat really hard sometimes.
I was just going to ask if you're like limited with microphone inputs and channels, do you ever just not mic this bottom snare?
I used to not mic the bottom snare for years because I thought it was a bunch of hooey. It's not like something that it's just like, oh my God, that's amazing. Literally, it's just barely in there.
There's like plugins now, I think. That
Yeah, there's a lot of tricks. You can also do something where you get some white noise on a track, just psh,
right.
That's all it does. Put a gate on it, and then have the gate triggered by your top snare mic, and then it goes psh, psh, and you blend it in, and some people, actually, that was a big thing in the 80s.
Was it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's why a lot of those drums sound that way. I just kind of like the ability to just get a little bit of this little snare rattle under there. Okay, so let's A-B those.
Just regular 57 to start off with.
We're gonna go with the elbow mic. Yeah, let's switch out.
We want to try that Beyer
let's
with the
switch
elbow?
this thing. Now, is this, oh, you're gonna tape them together?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like that. Now keep going. Yeah, I'm just blending them. So this is the Beyer dynamic mic. Here's the 57 modified. Beyer. It's got a cool little body sound to it. I like them together. I think that's pretty, that pops. Dude, I really like I like that Shure kick drum. That's like, it does this like, pusha, pusha, pusha. It's like, yeah.
They're like I'm finding like a mastermind
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm good with that snare con. I love those two snare mics.
Yeah, it sounds good in a...
That sounds amazing.
Billy, I just threw a BF snare drum ring.
Oh, let me come up there. Let's pull up the other camera just real quick. I don't want to get too deep in this, but while we're here, we might as well just do this.
This is just a manufactured kind of muffle ring. They make it where it's the full plastic head. You just lay it on your snare drum. This one, I like it because it has the hole cut in the center, and it doesn't change the response of where the stick hits the center of the drum. You still get that attack. You don't have to go out and pay for something like this. You just take an old drum head, coat it or clear or whatever, and you cut off the collar on it, And that could be your deadening, give it your 70s fat dry sound. So I got this
Yeah.
old Evans. I just cut off a single ply coated. I'm gonna lay that on there. Let's see what that sounds like. It's even drier, right?
It makes it sound like it's a lower pitch too.
Lower, it drops the fundamental pitch and it really dries it out like that old 70s. So if that's what you're going for, this is a great thing to do. You don't have to spend any money, just get an old drum head. And then there's a couple other options I'll show you. Like if that's too dry for you, you can use one of these like standard skinnier rings, which will just muffle it a little bit. Still cracking, but just a little dried out. Sometimes what I do is I'll just take an old drum head, like I told you, and I'll cut out like a half moon kind of thing. And that just gives you a little muffling. And also, I'll show you these while we're on it. They're called snare weights. The two different sizes. This is the M80, the big one, and this is the small one. And they're just pieces of leather. They got these hinges on them. This is the part that clips to your rim. Clip it on. What's cool about this is they built a magnet into it, so you can flip one side up. You flip that over. It's got a magnet in it. Say you're like in the middle of playing and you're like, ooh, I want a wide open sound. You flip the magnet up, now you got no muffling at all. Flip down. One side up. That's the minimum amount of muffling. So it gives you a lot of variations, and they make that smaller one I use on the toms. These are just easy to take on and off and flip on and off, and they don't flip off. They don't put a bunch of marks on your drum heads. And they are a little pricey, though, I will say that. For these three, I think I paid upwards of $80. I usually tune my resonant head just a little bit tighter than the batter head, which is the beater side. And you get a little more tone out of the drum that way. Within the last year, I bought one of these nifty gadgets called a TuneBot. And what I like about it is it really gives you some good options for tuning. You could tune by ear just fine, but you have to kind of know your pitches and what you're actually going for. And then there's the relationship between the bottom head and the top head. So this TuneBot basically measures frequencies, so you can go around and check your frequencies at every lug. But also it comes with a cool app that it gives you different styles of tuning, whether you want like minimum decay on the drum or if you want maximum resonance. So I tune this drum at home, but I want to show you this real quick. So you turn it on. Right now it's reading 0, you can see. And what I'm going to do is you have to really mute the other head that you're not tuning, or else the frequencies will just go crazy. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to check the bottom head. And I just tweaked this yesterday. We'll see if it went out a little bit. So what you do is you just tap around each lug one time. You'll see a thing. So that's reading 213. Let's go around the other lugs. That's 213. That's 212. That's 213. 212. 212. So if I grab my drum kit here, this thing reacts to just, you can breathe on it and it'll change the pitch. So I just turned it a little bit. Now it's 213. And see, so then it affected that lug. Now it's 214, so I got to bring that one down a little bit. You kind of get the point. And once you get all of these at your right frequency, then there's more of an exacting. Then you press this button again, and it tells you in smaller increments how far off it is. It really gets exact. So we'll go back to this lug. So that's reading 1.5 positive. So that means I want to get it to as close to 0.0 as possible. So that one needs to come down. Now it's reading 1.0. So that one, I'm going to bring it down a hair. I can live with 0.5. This one, 0. 0.5. That's okay. 0.5. I mean, you could mess around and get them all at 0 if you wanted, but I don't really think you're going to hear that much of a difference. So this bottom head's good. We're at 213. Now we're going to flip it over and do the same thing to the top. So I have to reset it. All right, so let's see what we got here on the top head. It's going to be much lower. So 168. I'm tuning the top head looser so it creates a little bit quicker decay, or some people call it a pitch bend, and it'll get rid of some of that resonance quicker.
How do you select the frequencies?
So on the app, it gives recommendations for tunings. All right, you can kind of see that, right? So if you go in here and say I'm doing a 12-inch tom, take that off, and you have 4 different resonance settings here. I'm just above minimum, and I'm going for a 0 fundamental pitch. And down here you have a selection, bottom head higher or top head higher. So we'll go calculate. It says 175 over 230. Well, mine is 168 over 213. But I think what I did was I saved the tuning here. You could save your drum tuning. So we got 213 on the bottom and 168 at the top. So that's 167. 161. So we want to fix that. Get that up. Basically, you get it close, and then by ear, I'll tweak it a little bit because it might not be exactly what I want, just from experience. But if you're not a drummer in the studio, but let's say you have like a house kit or something, and you really don't understand drum tuning, this is a good tool to have so you can at least get your drums in a close ballpark. And then if you have a drummer come in, he can tweak to his liking. So we're going to try to make these all 168, as close to it as possible. It's 167. And another thing with this is if you're getting, like, the frequencies are whacking out a little bit, you can just rest your finger really lightly on here to kill any resonances.
Yeah, it's kind of what I do when I'm tuning by ear. I'll usually put my finger very slightly in the middle of the head. I was wondering if other people did that. Something I've always done. I just kind of barely touch the middle of the head so I can hear more of the resonance near the lug. Let's just hit it right here. So I'm going to lift it up a little bit so we can hear both the heads.
Drums get weird with resonance, so if you want to really hear how it's going to sound, you want to hold it by its rim.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds pretty good.
All right,
Sounds pretty good to me.
So this brings up something I'm kind of wondering about. Back in the old days, we didn't use no stinking bottom heads.
That's right.
No bottom heads.
That would make tuning way easier.
Yeah.
Because you got no relationship.
I remember the first time a guy came in with drums with heads on the bottom, and I thought, what freaking idiot would do that? And I was like, actually, I can hear the pitch. It's kind of cool. But back in the day, no self-respecting rock and roller, extra heads, that costs more money.
Right, and you have to put more
Not to
hardware on the
mention
drum.
when there's not a bottom head on, when you're packing things up, you can toss your dirty clothes in there and your weed.
True.
So,
and you can also mic from the bottom.
and we would put the mics inside like under the head.
And you would get no bleed from anything else.
You know, does anybody do that anymore?
It's coming back.
Okay, here we go.
We went through the same process on the floor, Tom, and then took a question from a viewer, which led to a whole other conversation about tuning.
And what's the fundamental pitch? Is it like C2?
Oh, fundamental pitch on this is G sharp 2. Yeah, that's another thing about the app. It does give you all the notes if, say, it's like an A sharp or A sharp second octave. If you actually want to tune to a note with this, you can also tune to a note. Do you ever tune your drums in tune with the song?
I used to always tune my toms to the song, and it was up until I did a band called Guess. And the drummer had like 5 toms or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And I was every song retuning the toms, and after that I was like, screw it. I mean, it's kind of cool, but unless it's a real obvious ring, I just kind of go for the sound. So I kind of think more about just does it sound cool? You know what I'm saying? Well, there's a lot of theories about this. Some people say top head and bottom head should be the same pitch.
Right.
Some people higher, some lower. And I don't know if this is true or not, that I heard about Stuart Copeland from the Police, that he would take his bottom head or all his head and just tune them out literally till he couldn't tune it anymore.
Yeah, he tuned his drums super high.
Some people always had this idea, oh, your bottom head should be way higher than the top head and all that. And I've tried them all.
Kind of depends on what you're going for.
I think I tend to now go where the bottom head is a little higher than the top head.
So there's so many different variables, but this is more or less a good starting point. Let's see what it sounds like when we just hold it.
Yeah. Oh, shit, that sounds great.
That sounds really good. Like I said, it's a really good starting point. And then if you get a little too much weirdness, you can bring the top head up a little bit just by ear. Can't complain about that. Let's set it up.
Are these birch or maple?
These are maple drums. This is a Yamaha Absolute Hybrid Maple, so it's kind of like maple on steroids. I'm a big fan of Yamaha drums. They just always sound great. These are the Absolute Hybrid Maples. They have a center ply of a hardwood called a Wenge, which I think is an African hardwood. And the ideal behind that is it's supposed to like accelerate the other plies just to get them resonating a little more and give Yamaha its kind of unique sound.
Okay, here on the tom, I'm using this is a Sennheiser 421. I use these actually a lot on guitar amps as well, but this is a very standard drum mic. A lot of people back in the day would use these for kick drums. I've never liked them on kick drums, love them for toms. There's other mics you can use. Yes, there is duct tape on here. It looks a little crappy, and the reason is Sennheiser made these mics with these weird little clips on here that only work on these mics. You can accidentally hit the button, the mic goes flying off, or they break. But anyway, I usually just kind of take it down. I point it at the tom. If I had my way, I would love to mic the tom like this. I don't know if y'all can see this. I would like to mic it. I'd love to mic my toms like this, if I could. Kind of like almost straight down, not pointing at the center, but kind of pointing at this area here. But if I do that, the drummers are gonna hit it. I actually like this sound better, but my mics get destroyed. So I usually have it back like this. If I can, once again, if it's close to the cymbal, I try to, sometimes I'll have it over here, kind of pointing this way. And on both of these, actually I want to bring this back a little bit. These are about, I guess, a couple inches past the rim of the drum. What I'm doing with this one is similar to the other one. Usually if the drum gets bigger, and actually I would normally have this a little bit further in, because I feel like the tone's a little bit better. Like I said, there's like an area here that's better. But I'm also doing this thing where because of the way he's got his drum set up, I can point it more towards the back of the drum kit instead of like, sometimes you're in a situation you can only point the mic this way and it's pointing toward this dang hi-hat, which is always gonna be too loud. With this, I have the luxury of kind of like pointing it towards the back of the kit, which gives it a little bit more isolation. Okay, so I got overheads here. These are Josephson C42s. These are small diaphragm condensers. They're actually kind of like a clone of a Neumann KM184, I believe. I'm actually not, I used to never use small diaphragm condensers on overheads, and we might switch these a little later on because Dave brought some other mics. I was actually, for the longest time, using Earthworks TC30K omnidirectional mics, but one of them went bad and they don't actually service those anymore. But I've kind of been getting into the small diaphragm condensers. A lot of people like them because they're bright and shimmery and they're kind of tingy. I tend to like a bigger, washier sound. And a lot of people, what they do is, I've actually got these a little higher. A lot of people would like get the overheads, and actually, can we lower this down just a little bit, Dave? I'm normally about a stick above, because when I was checking the phase earlier, I wasn't 100% happy with it. Let's bring it down.
You don't go from the snare drum?
And then let's lower this down around the same place. Okay, so here, okay, boy, this gets really deep. I'm doing my overheads kind of based more on the cymbals than where the snare drum is. So
How much you want it down?
just try to match it with this one. Oh yeah, and you want your overheads the same height. Now, the snare drum, because of this, the snare drum's gonna sound a little louder in this mic over here. I've got these kind of based more on the cymbals. Although, Dave, I'll tell you what, let's just pull this back a little bit. It's gonna make the snare sound lopsided in the overheads, although I usually don't have the overheads that loud. There's a whole other theory about this that Luke Campioletta told me, and I forget it's Massenburg thing, where you can also take your overheads and go like this. I used to do this thing where I would take a tape measure, and I still may get back into this at some point. Take a tape measure and measure from the middle of the snare head, measure to the middle of the mic. And then you want to make sure it's the same distance there. But the problem with that for me is that this mic would have to be like way back over here.
Well, the way I do it, do my home recording is like one's higher and then one's lower.
Yeah, my issue with that is then you get different rooms. Maybe in a dead room that would be kind of cool. But I'm always in liver rooms, and it's always kind of like then there's more room on one side. But here's the other thing, and this is really, really important. When you're miking cymbals, you got to consider what's going to happen. Let's move this a second. When the drummer hits the cymbal. When he hits this cymbal, he's going to go like this, and it's going to go like this, right? If your mic is here, it's going to get louder quiet. It seems small,
that wash
but you get the,
warp?
you know, you get more of that, right? I always try to get my cymbal mics here on the axis. So when he hits it, I'm sure it's going to do a little bit of this, but there's the first few kind of waggles, seesaw things there. The mic is kind of a more consistent distance from the cymbal. So that's kind of why I'm putting it here. It's also going to pick up some of this ride cymbal, even though I have a ride cymbal mic, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But I have them kind of on the pivot. So it's like this. Same thing over here. The pivot point, there's probably a scientific term for this, is here. So, and they're about the same height. Actually, this can come down about a ½ inch. I think it's a little high. Now, this is going to seem a little unusual to some people. Most people use a small diaphragm condenser on the hi-hats because it makes sense. So if you're doing like R&B or jazz or something with a lot of detail, that would make sense. I'm usually not doing that stuff. I'm usually doing stuff where people are bashing things and it's loud and it's like, a lot of times I'm not using it in the mix, but especially in the chorus, because in the chorus, what's the drummer doing? He's like, but in the verse, if the drummer's doing this, he's going, you know, maybe he's doing some little thing, some little fancy thing, and I really want that in there, then I will automate the hi-hat track on and off, and I'll also EQ it to kind of get it. So sometimes the hi-hat mic comes off and on. But getting back to the mic, I tend to not use small diaphragm condensers unless I'm working on something that's a little more delicate because of the kind of music I do. So I'm using this. This is actually, you've probably seen these all the time, but there's like a foam pad here. This is a SM7. This is a broadcasting mic, and you see it on live streams all the time. It was actually when I was working at Blackbird in Nashville, and somebody there suggested it, and I tried it, and I love it because it's more going to get some upper mid-range and all that, and you're not going to get a lot of super like in it. It's just a different sound. And now where I place it is a lot of time going to depend on the drummer. I usually have the drummer playing, like some drummers are hitting kind of over here, some are hitting here. So I just try to get it over the hi-hat and I point it where he's hitting. Some people have another idea about it. I've seen people sometimes mic a hi-hat like, oh, you always point at the edge, or you take the mic and you point it like here at this gap, which I tried a couple times, it didn't sound right. Doesn't mean it's wrong, it just means that, you know, whatever other things they're doing miking their drum kit, it works for them. For me, the whole point of this mic is to capture detail when I want it on the hi-hat. So, Dave, where do you actually hit your hi-hat?
I'm generally...
Oh, yeah, so I'd be
Right in
kind of
this
like,
area.
yeah, so I'm going to kind of do something like that. Okay, next, I have a ride cymbal mic here. Most of the time, this does not get used. I'm using a Shure SM57. A lot of people would try maybe like a small diaphragm condenser, but the point is, actually, it was interesting if you mess around with an EQ on a ride cymbal, the frequencies that really stand out are not 10K. It's like some lower stuff. It'll be like 6K, and it's also very directional. So what I'll do is I'll kind of bring it down, and I'll go ahead and hit your cymbal. Oh, you said you kind of come in off the side a little bit?
Well, when I'm playing the bell,
Yeah,
I hit the bell from the side, but the other part, I'm here.
yeah. Okay, so I point it like this, and there's no EQ on this. So let's go ahead and hear what this sounds like by itself. Once again, this is the sort of thing that this would normally be off, but let's say at the end section, he's hitting on the bell. Hit the bell real quick. The overhead is going to pick that up, but if I've got 8 heavy guitars going and a bunch of other wacky stuff, I want this to stand out. And I'll do some radical EQ on this cymbal sometimes. I'll do a high-pass filter, and sometimes I'll find this bing, 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 like whether it's the bell or here. I'll crank that thing up, and then when it comes in, it just pops in and out. Sometimes drummers, and I'm sure you know that, some drummers will do this thing where they're not necessarily playing a beat. They go, blah, blah, and they hit the ride cymbal almost like it's part of the fill.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
That shit drives me nuts because I have to search for those things. Oh, that was one of those.
As you can see, too, I don't know if you can see this, I put a little piece of
Yeah, I noticed that.
on the cymbal.
I saw that earlier. I've never seen that before.
What that does is, like, I don't know if you've ever seen like old jazz guys sometimes or rock guys. You'd see like gaff tape underneath the cymbal.
I didn't do that on purpose, I swear. Sorry, now I got your moon gel all dirty, dude. Yeah, okay. Oh my God.
All right,
Now
here we go. We're gonna try this one more time.
Should I lick it?
Take two.
No.
You could lick it.
No, I'm not going to. Okay, let's do it
Here we
again.
go. All right, kill the mics. Like I said, it gives it a little more distinction. But I mean, if you're playing a big rock song and you're kind of bashing on a ride, you don't generally want that on there. But it just gives me a little more control without having to go out and buy a different ride cymbal.
That made more difference than I realized. That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
You can do it with tape on the bottom.
I've got these two room mics. These are Neumann TLM 103s. Mostly I use them for vocal mics and acoustic guitar. I wish I had some ribbon mics. I just don't actually own any, but these actually work pretty good. I've got them pointed up towards this kind of this angle here. It's picking up like where the ceiling is hitting that wall and a little bit of the side wall here. I'm running them into some Neve 1073 clones by AML. So we're gonna have those. So let's go ahead and see what these sound like by themselves. Okay, so next this is actually Dave's microphone. This is a ribbon mic.
It's a Golden Age Project MK2.
I had this up earlier. This thing.
I thought I heard it, and I was like,
Dude,
what's that cool sounding like?
Well, we're gonna show you. So it's just a single room mic. It was a little surprising. This is a ribbon mic. Let's hear the same thing with that mic. Okay, it's a little bassy, so bassy.
That's good.
I mean, probably to use it as a room mic, I would need to do like a high-pass filter or something like that on it. Justin, can you throw on just like a standard Pro Tools EQ, the 7-band?
Sure.
And just kind of do like a 6 dB high-pass filter? Because to me, it sounded like, man, you almost would have like a drum sound with one mic if it wasn't so boomy. I was like, God, it sounded really good. Let's see what that sounds like, and just roll off some of that boom, and let's see what that sounds like with just rolling off some of that. Go to 6 dB or whatever. I don't know. You know how to engineer. Here, let's
we should
just start playing and he's just do the same thing. All right, take it away, Justin. Let's see what we got. Pretty cool, huh? One of my favorite things about Dave is he knows how to hit a drum. God, dude, even standing here with these headphones, like, God, that snare drum is loud. Is like, are you mad about something?
I just put my earplugs in under my headphones.
I don't feel like I'm playing that hard. I used to play harder.
Yeah, well, you're just mellowing with age.
I think it's the snap. You got to get the snap. You guys play like this.
So don't ever do that again.
And that's a sound. That's a sound, right?
I mean, it is, but
Yeah,
I mean,
like
for
indie
me,
rock sound.
Yeah, I mean, cool.
It's not as cool as this.
Ah, God, oh my God, this guy got me all worked up, man.
You're freaking out. You're freaking out.
Well, I am freaking out. I mean, I just kind of set that up, but now that I hear that low end, I feel like I want to put it in there for like the low end.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing with the ribbon mic, I can't get too close to the drums. Or is this one designed for a higher SPL?
No, it's high SPL.
Because see, it used to be.
I checked that before I bought it.
Okay, where would I put it?
blow it out.
I don't want to get in the way of the drum.
There's also some discussion about using ribbon mics on drums because they are so delicate.
Yeah, I mean, if it's pretty far away, even a delicate ribbon mic, I'm pretty sure you could probably put this far away from the drums.
Yeah.
And the thing about ribbon mics too is like some of them, like the Royer 121s, they said like, yeah, if you pull it out of the box, don't go walking around the room and like swing, like it'll damage the rhythm. You got to put the bag over it. Some people will like put the mic on and then pull the bag off. But in some of the newer ribbons, I don't know how they do it. Maybe it's thicker foil, but like some of them you can put right up on a guitar amp.
You have to store that in an upright position.
You store
as well.
because the way a ribbon mic works is literally like a foil ribbon in there. It's like a rectangular foil,
Yeah, like a.
and it's kind of corrugated.
Right, like a roof.
And it's, I don't know how long it is, like, I don't know, something like that. Let's make sure everybody sees what the distance is right here. So we're this far, and we're basically, the height of it, it's like about here. Let's just see what that sounds like.
Alrighty, y'all are good.
I got to hear this on the speakers. I'm going to do this. Jimmy, you come over here. I want you to go like this. So about there, and let him go like a couple bars, and then go down like that, and there. I want to hear it on the speakers. I'm kind of curious. So here we go. Let me go downstairs.
I'll give you a minute.
Yeah, start lower. I like it down low, and
I like it low too.
yeah, bring it all the way down. I kind of like that sound too. The sound of him just lowering it. I'm going back upstairs. Last mic. Okay, so this is the last mic. And this has been in some of my videos. This is a Panasonic cassette mic. It's got these two little jacks. The way it was designed is if they turned it on, it would start the cassette recorder recording, so it was for dictation. And my sister and I were using this when I lived in Berlin, Germany in the 70s, and we'd record goofy little interviews with this thing. And it's amazing how many of these things I still have. What I'm doing is, and I've got it hooked up to just a little adapter here. And hopefully, sometimes it'll make weird sounds if I don't have it sitting just right. I'm just running into a DI, and then I'm running this into the Ghost console, and I've got it's such a low-level mic, it's gonna crank like hell. But I use this just kind of like a lo-fi mic, and I just wanted to record this. So let's see, is it on? And let's record that. Let's see what that sounds like. This thing's really, really cool, and usually I'll do a little more processing on it. I don't know if we use it on this, but I just like to have it out and try it. So those are all the mics. I want to listen to these overheads real quick. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do, Dave. I mean, those are really great overhead mics, but they're a little polite. Let's switch out with your Shure large diaphragm condenser mics.
Okay.
I just always like larger diaphragm. Okay, you can go ahead and let's start switching them out now. So Dave,
Yes.
I want you to just go ahead and just kind of play the drums for a minute. I want to go through the sounds here a little bit.
Are you gonna have the drums in the track, or you got those muted?
I wanted to mute the original drums.
That's fine.
The only thing I have in there is this.
Yeah, that's great.
I just like that sound.
Yeah, that's cool. I like the little
and then
tail
you'll have
reverb.
the
on it.
click. I just want you to play the drums for a minute because I want to mess with these sounds a little bit.
Sure. Okay. Here we
So
go.
just kind of play. I like that kick, man. Dave, let me hear the mounted tom real quick. Okay, floor tom. Okay, go back and forth between the two. I might want to hear another snare, so here's what I'm going to do. I know I heard you playing some of the stuff with the track earlier, and I thought it was kind of cool. Let's play you with the track. Let's make sure we got a decent headphone mix. I'm going to record a little bit of you playing with a snare drum, and I want to try one other snare. All right, so let's just play along with the track, see what it sounds like in your headphones. How's your headphone mix? I meant to set up a cross-stick mic. Are you going to be doing that?
I don't have to. That was just me messing around.
I think
I
that's
probably
kind of
won't-
cool. So since I'm going to use the Shure kick mic, so I'm going to substitute the SE kick mic and I'm going to make it a side cross-stick mic since I'm kind of out of pre's and all that. If you see he's got the snare mics here, what he's doing is he's doing this cross-stick thing. The sound, a lot of the sound is right here. It's kind of far away from that. So you guys see where I've got this mic here. So I've got it where it's like, it's not gonna be in the way of this tom when he's doing fills. It's literally pointing right here, partially at the head, but also where the stick is hitting. And it's gonna be loud as hell. I'll usually keep it turned off during tracking once I get the sound, because when he hits the snare drum, it's gonna be crazy loud. But that way, when he's playing this sound here, I can turn on this mic just for that one section, and I can get a really defined stick sound, and I usually like add a little mid-range into it. So now I'm gonna go set the level. Okay. All right, so now, this is what it sounds like. That is the stick mic. There, okay. Now here's what it sounds like on the snare mics. See how it sounds more distant? That's snare mics. Here is stick mic. Boom, it's right there. There's nothing in the way of the transients. So there it is with it in there. Now without it. Crazy, huh? The only thing I'm using the board for as far as recording the drums is I've got the Ride and the Panasonic mic, which is a lo-fi mic. They're running through the mic pre's on here. Everything else here is monitoring. We've got our microphones, Kit's mic, my lav. This is the RE20. This is the DAW coming from Pro Tools. And then these are like, master sends to go out to headphones and all that. And then we've got Dave's TalkBack, the Click. And then I've got the Ride and the Panasonic. Let me show you what I actually am using. I'm using these APIs. The Kick is on the API 512C, and that is using the Shure Beta 91.
No EQ on that. And then we've got the 2 snare mics because we've got the modified SM57 and then the Bear something or other, which are taped together. They're running to here. And I'm not doing any EQ or compression. Not that I'm against EQ. I often EQ things, but I'm just not today. I'm trying to give like a level playing field between the mics and all that so that people can kind of hear what they sound like without EQ. Earlier, I had EQ'd the AKG D112. I've got this side stick mic that's pointing at the snare drum from the other side or cross stick where it's hitting the rim, and I'm boosting a little mid-range, but that's it. Back here, I've got this Universal Audio Twinfinity 710. That's for the hi-hat. The ribbon mic, which is the mono room mic, well, it's actually not really a room mic anymore. It's a ribbon mic out in front of the kick drum. That's going through my germanium right back here. Y'all can see it, it's back there. Let's see, what else do I have? My toms, these are my Avalon mic pre's right here. So the toms are on there. They've got like a really comprehensive EQ. And the funny thing is, Dave's tom sounded so good, I barely added some low end on the floor tom. And then the snare under mic, the bottom mic, is on the Focusrite ISA 110. This is like the original run of these things. And I think once they became popular, I kind of feel like they kind of downgraded them or something. This thing's like very amazing. It's got like a really great EQ section in it. Over here, the overheads are these Cappies. Now these Cappies, they're an emulation of a really early series API mic pre's, and I found out about these when I was working in Nashville on one of the String Dusters records. And then here on my room mics, these are Neve 1073 clones. They're made by a company called AML out of England. They're handmade. They're called the Easy 1073 500. These are amazing. These, to me, are the best sounding Neve clones I've ever worked on. Like, they almost sound more Neve than a Neve.
Okay, now, getting back to what we were doing. Okay, Dave, now, don't move any mics. Just pull that other snare in there really quick. Just kind of get it close. I'll know. Just grab that big old fat snare real quick. What is that snare?
Yamaha 6.5 by 14 recording custom aluminum. And the other one was a Ludwig 5 by 14 copper shell snare drum.
That thing's got some dang punch on it. And now, just for the hell of it, go over there, grab my Black Beauty from under that chair.
Jimmy, can you grab that Black Beauty from under that chair? The Ludwig is a black nickel plated brass snare drum, so it should technically sound a little wetter, you know, a little ballsier, maybe, I don't know.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do. To tell you the truth, I'm kind of liking that and that aluminum one. Without moving anything else, I'm just going to have you play with the heavy section of that track with that real quick. I'll know enough, and then I might have you pull up that other silver one real quick, and I'll make a decision. Go ahead and switch to that silver one. And then I'm going to record a little bit of that and I'll make a decision. Yeah, Soul Pilot Music. It's the Black Beauty normally wins out, but it's this Evans head, and I need to get a coated ambassador. And every time I go by the store, they don't have them. I think I just need to order one online.
Run the track.
I like that tone. It might need to come down in pitch just a teeny bit.
Copy.
But is that going to affect the attack of it?
I don't think so.
Oh, man, I like that snare drum. All right, I'm going to come up and move some mics. I want you to play the drums a little bit. I'm going to mess with the distressors because I have no compression on these room mics yet.
Okay.
I'm going to be bypassing and engaging the compressors on the overheads. so everybody knows what I'm doing. So I'm putting some compression on the room mics. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a gate on the room mics. And this is just something that's going to happen in Pro Tools here. And what I'm doing is I'm sending a signal from one of the snare drum mics. It's not something that you would hear. It's just going out of a bus here, and it's set on pre-fader, so no matter where I put this fader, this level is going to be the same. So it's sending out to a bus, or I call it sidechain snare drum. It's sending out to there. It's going to a gate. So the gate is on the room mics, and it's going to be on both room mics. And what's going on with the gate is I told the gate to look at a sidechain snare drum bus. Let me show you like this. Go ahead and play, Dave. So there's the room mics, right? What they're hearing is this. That's what they're hearing. They're hearing that snare drum. And I can EQ it so it kind of focuses on the main snare hit. But what ends up happening is every time it hears that snare drum, it triggers the gate. And I'm going to set the range so it's turning it down in between the snare hits. It's going to turn it down like 10 dB. So Dave, play a straight beat. Okay, so here it is without the gate on the room mics. When I put the gate on, it's like that. So you get more of the gate mic, the gate sound on the snare hits, and you can really tweak that out. So it's like, that's what it sounds like soloed with the gate on, with the gate off, on. So it's not turning it off totally, it's just turning it down 10.4 dB. I'm just going to turn it down a little bit. All right, cool. All right, so Dave, what the heck? Let's start recording. God dang it, we've been messing around with these damn mics for
It's
hours.
about time.
So there's a long section at the beginning where it's just that space guitar.
Right.
I don't really have a strong agenda on this song. I just say get in there and just do some.
Now, I don't know. I remember there was a bar or two in there or something, a weird thing after the middle section.
Yeah, it goes dun 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 dun. It drops like a quarter note or two. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Let's just do it. What the hell?
Let's try it.
After the first take, we discussed some of the
Kick
parts.
in on the 2 on the intro.
Okay.
And then we tweaked the sound a little bit more.
What I wanted to do there.
That was so good, I wish I'd recorded. Then we did another take. And another. Well, actually, we did a few more. And if you'd like to see them, you can still watch the full live stream in the live section of my channel. All right, Mr. K-Man, here we go. Rocking, man. I like that.
Sweet.
Come on down here.
I'm gonna come down and listen.
Yeah.